First and foremost, I just want to say God bless everybody who is listening to this. I just want to come on here to give a bit of my testimony and what I've experienced, what God has done in my life, and how He saved my life, really. So just to start from the beginning, I used to go to church since like a little kid, and even when I was little, it was never that serious for me. I never really was that into God at a younger age in my life, but I was in the church. So to start off this testimony, I was in church for a while, and I would hear the word, but once again I was going for the wrong reasons, and I left for a period of time. God allowed me to be out in the world for a period of time. So in that time, I was just what I considered at the time enjoying my life, doing whatever I wanted to do with my life. I was doing a lot of things that I shouldn't have been. I was doing drugs, alcohol, partying, clubbing, things of that nature. And I really let go of everything that had to do with God. Even though I still believe He existed, I didn't really look for that relationship with Him anymore. I just let it be. So I want to say that I seen that God began to move in my life again at the beginning of 2023, when, thanks to God that God has blessed me with the job that I have now. I began to see that a decline in like the desire to want to do things of the world. I didn't really want to go out as much anymore. So, because I had my job and I just wanted to be responsible for my job. So I want to say in February, I used to have these friends that I knew since a really young age. I want to say the 3rd or 4th grade. And they were the friends that really introduced me into a lot of clubbing and a lot of partying. And, these were the friends that I considered like, almost like brothers. Like, these were my friends. And, we had a separation. I believe God removed them from my life because God was working in my life. And fast forward to, I want to say, October, I had an experience with God. So even though I wasn't with those friends who I would go partying with, who I would do a lot of clubbing and things like this with, I was still in the world, and I was still doing worldly things. So I was at another friend's house, and it was a routine for us to go to one of our friends' house and smoke and drink and just, kind of have just a chill time with the friends, right? And something was different about this night, because I noticed that throughout the year I kind of got a little bit less intrigued with wanting to do those things with them, because I just seen it as, like, what am I doing here, but I never really took action, and I just continued to do it. But on this night, I remember I was smoking and I was drinking and I was doing drugs. I was leaving my friend's house. My other friend was driving me home, but something about this time was different. The ride felt longer. My friend's house was only like 3 or 4 minutes from my own house, but something about it felt longer, and it was darker. Like, I was in the back seat, but the only thing I could really see was the headlights and what was, like, right in front of them. And I began to think. It's like everything kind of slowed down around for me, and I began to think of all the different possibilities of what could go wrong in this very moment. And, like, one of them was, losing my life. Like, what if God was telling me, this is the last time? What if God said this is the last time? And that's what I was feeling at that moment. And so I kind of began to feel sad. And in my head, I was telling God sorry, because I betrayed him. I turned my back on God. And I was telling God in my mind, give me another opportunity. Because I just had a feeling like something bad was going to happen. I don't know what it was, but that's just what I was feeling. So I began to tell God, I'm sorry, to give me another chance. So as I got home, I'm kind of loopy because, I'm drunk and I'm high. And I go to my house, and as soon as I enter my home, I go straight to my room. And as I enter my room, my little brother is still awake. And I don't know what it was, but when I looked at him, I could just feel like something was just hovering over him, like something heavy, like some kind of oppression over him. Like, he just looked bitter. He didn't look like normal, because usually my brother's kind of happy-go-lucky, but he just felt like something was oppressing him. And I just felt bad, because I was thinking to myself, what kind of example am I setting for my little brother? But then I go to lay down in my bed, and it's just, in my mind at first, it was the drugs taking over, because I also wasn't only smoking and drinking, but I also had taken these candies that had marijuana in them. And I was thinking, man, these drugs are hitting me hard. Like they never have before, because, I've experienced them before, but this wasn't the same thing. So as I was laying in my bed, I started to lose control over my own body. Like, I was having an experience. And so when I was having that experience, something came over me. I couldn't visibly see it, but I knew that something was there. And I was kind of scared. I was a little terrified because I didn't know what it was, but I knew that it was there. And it was telling me to, if I didn't let go of my sin, of my ways, that it was going to be over for me. And basically implying that I was going to die. And it kept repeating that to me at first, like, to let go of my sin, to let go of my ways, because if not, I'm going to die. And what happened was, I didn't have control anymore. What happened was that it began to show me my sins, so to speak. I struggled a lot with, going out and doing drugs and alcohol and things like this. I struggled a lot with resentment, with idolatry, and even with lust. And it began to show me my sins. It began to show me, like, I have this favorite soccer player, Messi. It began to show me the idolatry I had towards him, how I wanted to be like him. And it began to show me that he isn't who I think he is. I always used to tell myself that I want to be like him as a person and not just as a soccer player. But I didn't know who he really was. And that's what God was showing me. As well as the resentment I had towards my family members, my mom and my dad, because I didn't grow up in a home of a lot of love, or at least I didn't feel like I grew up with any love from my parents. So I had a resentment in my heart towards them, and it began to show me that resentment towards them. It began to show me my sins of lust, of trying to be with multiple women and things like this, wanting to be in a relationship, wanting to have lustful relationships. It began to show me these things. And after it had shown me my sins, he told me start again. He told me close my eyes and start again. So as I closed my eyes, that just kept repeating. Just start again. Start again. Start again. And it was like I could see like lights flashing with my eyes were closed at this point, and I could just see lights flashing with the same start again, and start again. Telling me basically he was giving me another opportunity. And I thank God for that. And after that, it's like I guess he left, and I was still kind of going through the process of the drugs though, so I was still in bed. And after that, I did make the decision that I wanna seek God, and God confirmed this to me when I went back to church, that the pastora had ministered to me that God wanted to do beautiful things with my life, but I had to give my life to him. Because if I didn't give my life to him, then I was going to die. That he was going to let the enemy take me. So God confirmed what I had went through when I went back to church. And ever since then, God has moved tremendously in my life, and I give all the glory and the honor to God, because I began to see a change in my life. I didn't want to do the same things that I used to do. And I do want to say that at first it kind of was more of a fear, like, oh, I don't want to die. But as I kept coming to church, as I kept hearing more word, it became more of a desire to want to know God. That I want to really know him, because he's seen a sinner like me. He saw me when no one else did. He's seen me. He heard my cry for help, and it became a desire to want to know him more. So slowly but surely, God was molding me and taking me out of things. The desire to do drugs and to drink alcohol was no more. My friends that I had been separated from, they came back in my life trying to get me to do the same things. But I had no desire to do these things anymore. And that's because God changed me. I didn't have those desires anymore, thanks to God. And many other things as well. He began to change. Like in my home, it used to be very I don't want to say violent, but it used to be very not as loving, I want to say. There wasn't as much peace. There used to be arguments all the time, and people holding things against each other all the time. The home never really felt like home. And I began to see that change, like with my parents. I used to always argue with both my mom and my dad, with my brothers, and it was never good. I always had this anger pent up towards them. But as God began to change my heart, I was able to forgive them for what the hurt that they have caused me, and I was able to have peace in my home. And I can say to this day, really, I have not had a single argument with my parents, not one. And it feels good to have this peace in home, because God has changed my heart and God has worked in my life. I have a better relationship with my siblings, with my mom and with my dad. And that's all thanks to God. And as I began to also go to church more, there was the desire to know him more. It was growing and growing. I wanted to read my Bible more. I wanted to go to church more. I wanted to actually be in church more times than I wasn't. And I began to see that I wanted to apply what certain things I was applying, like at my work. I always show up early for work because I wanted to show them that like I'm willing to work and that I'm a good worker. So I would show up early, I would leave late, so that they could see like I'm a hard worker, right? And I began to think, why don't I do that for God? Because I used to show up to church at like 6, right on the dot, when I lived like 3 or 4 minutes from church. So that wasn't really good. So I began to apply that to church. So I started showing up early to church, because if I show up early to work, why can't I show up early for God? And those desires grew. So he removed the old desires that I had, and he put new ones. And you can see thanks to God, you can see the change that he has had in my life, that even my own family members have told me that they see a change in me. And that's because I've decided to give my life to God. And God has allowed me to experience this. Maybe to reach others, God willing, that whatever was in the world could never fill the void I had in my heart. Because I had a very huge void in my heart. And I try to fill it with many things: alcohol, drugs, women. And none of these things were ever enough. Maybe for a time, temporary. But now that I have God in my life, there's nothing like it. I've never felt a peace like this in my life before. I've never felt this kind of love in my life before. And that's something I used to really desire, is to be loved, because I never felt as if I was loved. And I made a lot of mistakes in my life due to that. But God, and in his grace and his mercy, he showed me that love, and he brought me out of the world. And I can just say from my experience that it's the best decision I made, is to follow God, to give my life to him. Because even now he continues to show me how much he loves me. And he continues to work in my life in areas I didn't think were possible, and things I didn't think, could ever be fixed. But here I am living it and seeing what he has done and what he will continue to do in my life. So I give thanks to God. And I just encourage other young people to look for God, because I know how it is to be young and want to do the things of the world, because it can be fun for a time. But none of that stuff that the world offers will ever bring you that peace or that happiness or the love that you yearn for. It can never be found out there. There's not enough of anything out there that could give you that feeling, that can restore what has been lost. But God can, and only he can. Because Jesus says himself in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. So that tells you that he is the way, and he is the only way. So that's just my testimony and what I've experienced so far. And I know that God will continue to work in my life and continue to mold me. But that's just the testimony I have for now. God bless everybody.